Hello, hello, hello. I, sorry, stream is a little bit late today. I, had an emergency with a plant. A plant, like, fell out of, there was a lot of wind today, and a plant fell off of the balcony where I placed it, and I had to go not only clean up the plant and repot it, but also clean up all the dirt that fell out of the plant out in front of the front porch of the building that I live in, plus, you know, up on the balcony top, and it was sitting on top of where my air conditioner sits, which is where I set out plants to get sun. So it was out there to get some sun and to, you know, chill out and everything. I had to go take care of it. So that's why the stream is several hours late, because I took care of it, then made myself dinner, then made myself coffee, and finally got ready to get on stream. Today is an awkward kind of day. It's just gonna be one of those days. Let me put up my my face cam here. Yo, so updates on today. I had a interview with a company for comic work as well as some other stuff, so I had that to go to, and it was a lot of nodding and being like, yes, that is what's in my portfolio, correct. And I never know how to react in interviews like that, so I just kind of like nodded and agreed. And then at the end, the person was like, she was like, do you have any questions for me? And I was like, no, because I don't even know what to ask you, because like the company that I was speaking to was sort of this, it's a larger company, so it's not like a thing that I could be like, hey, you know, talk to me for 30 minutes about publishing and stuff like that. So I literally was just like, no, I don't really think I have any questions. Is there anything else you want to tell me? And she was like, no. So the whole interview was about 10 minutes. But it's good news. In the interview, I was only told maybe like 2 things to really improve my art, and it was just sort of like, hey, watch your poses when you're making characters and when you're drawing. Make sure that you're, you know, referencing well and you're picking poses that work well with whatever. Because a lot of the poses, she said, there are some that are really nice and really fluid, and then there are other ones that get kind of stiff. And I immediately recognized what she was talking about. Some of them were older pieces of art that I threw into the portfolio as like a fail-safe kind of thing, because you should have somewhere between, you know, 10 to 15 pieces of art, and I threw in an extra 2 or 3 because it was like, well, character design, sure, I'll throw in some character design stuff. But they were older, and they were definitely pieces of art where I was referencing photos, but the types of photos that I used to reference are kind of how do I describe it? They're stock photos, but they're stock photos that you can find online from people who, you know, just for free either pose for stock or do some sort of modeling. And I stopped using those almost entirely because they don't, at least for my work, I'm sure they work for other people, but stock photos like that for me just kind of don't convey, they don't fully convey the pose. Cameras refract light, and only learning about cameras made me realize that this was an issue that I needed to like combat and start doing actual construction drawings of stuff. But cameras refract light, so when you're taking a photo of somebody, you're not getting exactly what that person looks like. A lot of the time you're getting a flattened version of it, or you're getting some sort of camera warping, and you can see it if you use different lenses. You can see the warping in the different lenses, and you can also see this alteration happen with there are cameras now that are designed to look exactly like how the eye sees things, and to look through that lens as compared to the lenses that you normally use on a camera, like an iPhone lens, it's night and day. So I was using photos that were not retouched for the lens because they're just edited to look like nice photos. They're not edited to look like actual construction of the human frame. And I was, you know, doing that. Plus they were I didn't say this, but they were commission drawings, so they were drawings that it didn't really matter if they were constructurally accurate. It was more like I was looking for the mood of that commission, and some of them were commissions that didn't take me super long to do, but they're good character design, so I was like, yeah, I'll throw them in on the design aspect instead of on the aspect of like being a good drawing. So oh, that's my alarm telling me to take Hoshi out. However, the Hoshbutt has already gone to the outside today, so not an issue. But yeah, that was that interview today. That was the thing. I have another one tomorrow, and then I have more job interviews on Sunday and Monday. So it's just job interview week apparently for me. But I will keep people posted if anything changes with my schedule on streaming, if I'm going to be doing different stuff or anything like that. So far, the plan is to do exactly what I have been doing, just work on my comic. My interviewer person basically just said, hey, I like all of the ideas that you're talking about right now, and she said, are you going to pitch this? And I said no, because I pitched it once already to a company, and this was like years ago, and I don't know which company to pitch to. And she was like, fair enough. And then she said, are you meeting with there's a web comic company tomorrow, and she said, are you meeting with them? And I said yes. So she kind of immediately knew like what the goal was, and she was like, I just want you to know in this interview right now that you're ready for professional work and you should be working professionally. And I was like, well, I'm being paid to draw art, so that's professional work. Yes, I'm already there. And she said, yeah, fair enough. I mean, if you're doing commissions and you're making money at that, then yeah. So that's been just my interview time today. It's been a long day. It's been an exhausting day, especially running outside to clean up after my potted plant. So I'm just gonna get into the drawing. So today is Fan Art Friday. I do Fan Art Friday every week, once a Friday, usually at 5 p.m. Today it's very, very late, but usually 5 p.m. I do Fan Art Friday. And I pick a series that I like or that I'm excited about or hype about, and I start drawing from that series. So today's series is Castlevania. I've done this before. I've been on the Castlevania train for a while because the new season is about to come out in like less than a week, I think. And it's one of my favorite series of all time, game series. I love the Netflix series. I have some like moral problems with the Netflix series, but what don't I have moral problems with? I'm an anti-capitalist and I'm gay, so there's no media that I can enjoy at this point that's not going to be a thing that I'm going to be like, yeah, no, they shouldn't have done that. That's a bad idea. So anyway, Castlevania is one of my favorite series, always has been, and with the new season coming out, I wanted to draw the main character, which is Alucard. I love him very, very much. He is a good special boy, and we enjoy him, so I'm going to be drawing Alucard today. I don't know what else to say about that, so we're just going to get into it. I started this sketch a while ago, and this was back when I was doing the other Castlevania piece that I did, which was the Hector one, which still isn't done, and I, after doing that, did this sketch, and I like this piece much better than that one, so I think I'm going to reformat that one a little bit so that I have more. It can't be Taco Friday, because I don't have money for tacos, so no tacos. I already made kimchi pancakes for dinner. But anyway, I will be doing this sketch today and trying to make it nice and clean. So I put the sketch on a couple of different layers here. We've got our castle in the background. Very, very insane perspective on this castle here. I went all out. I normally don't draw architecture, but apparently for this, my brain was like, yes, draw many in architecture, draw so much. And this is the reason why I wanted to redraw the Hector drawing, because there wasn't so much architecture in that sketch. Actually, I think I can find it and pull it up. Maybe... I know it's time to take Hoshi out. I'm aware of that. I've already done it. I already checked it off. This is... I hate... Okay. I have an iPhone. They're great for almost everything except for, like... They're made for customization and business. And so... It's like every 3 seconds I get some sort of notification, so I just put my phone in silent, because like I don't want to deal with that. But then I don't hit my notifications, and I don't get stuff like when I get a commission. I don't get updates on that, so I have to have it on with the noise on, which sucks. Absolutely is the worst. But yeah, let's see if we can import our good Castlevania boy. Where is it? Fan art? Okay, so I don't have like a full image of it, but I have like a cropped one. So this is the Hector piece I did a while ago that still isn't done, but you can see the castle in the background there, and you can see this gate, which was supposed to be the architectural image in it. And if I zoom in closer, you can see this drawing of Hector here. And my issue with it was that there wasn't enough architectural stuff in the drawing aspect of it, and it just sort of like, I didn't put enough effort into the full drawing, you know? Like I put all my effort into finishing the foreground figure and all of these like smaller figures, not all of them because these ones came later, but the ones that are up here in this foreground, I put a lot of my effort into that and didn't put enough effort into planning out where the castle will be in the whole thing. So I'm gonna redo that drawing, probably keep the Hector that I drew in the center because I like this drawing of Hector that I did, but I'm not going to be finishing it in the state that it's in. So for this one, I wanted to completely change that, and it took me an age and a half to draw all of this. So I have Castle in the background, I have Alucard in the foreground, and someone has a very loud car nearby, and I am going to be changing up some stuff with this and tracing over the sketch that I've already got. Okay, this is the layer I needed. I realized, I was like, what is this artifact right here? This little square here? I realized that that's his thumb, and it goes down here. That's what you get for drawing everything on multiple different layers and having it all squished together like this. There we go. Goes like that. Okay, cool. That's actually too large, so we're gonna shrink that down. But yeah, that was my rather rambly intro discussing my interview and everything else that was happening to me today. Hope everyone else's night is going good. Mine is gonna be this. Hoshi is asleep. Hoshi is asleep on the chair right now. She wants nothing to do with me because I brought in the plant and proceeded to pay more attention to the plant for a good hour. So she's upset with me. The plant, by the way, is I repotted them in a new place, in a new little planter. But this is the little guy that fell. The smallest of all of my boys, but the one that shattered the most because it was still, this is a new glass thing, but it was in a different glass little planter before. This is these are scallions, and They also, for some reason, when it shattered, I noticed that there were other plants in here, and I don't know what it is. There's this little tiny sprig of leaves on the side here, which you probably won't be able to see because of the graininess of this camera and the fact that it's nighttime. But they're this little like tiny sprig of boys. I don't know what they are. They look kind of like dill, which would make sense because I do reuse potting soil sometimes, and I did have a dill plant at one point, which dill does not like the weather here. It was not a fan, so it's gone now. It was in, there's another glass planter behind me. It was in that planter. So I don't know, it could be dill. We'll find out when it grows bigger. I'll take a leaf off and try and taste it and see what it is. But when I find out what my dill plant is, or what it is, I will most likely move it to another planter. Where's my... There we go. There we go. Haha. They're girl plants? I don't know. Cause Barry over here, Barry, the red planter behind me, that he's a boy. And Oswald, the tea plant that I have that's in the bathroom right now, is a boy. But I don't know. Cool. So I've got my two pen tips here. I'm trying to figure out which one is going to scratch my my tablet less. Probably this one. I need to replace the pen caps on these, but or the nibs, but I'm too lazy to do it now. So I'm gonna use the one that's the least worn down and just hope it doesn't scratch up my tablet pad. The one good thing about Wacom recently is that since their most recent release of a bunch of Wacom stuff, they have made it so that their tablet interface, like the plate that you get on top of the top of the tablet that you draw on, can be replaced now, instead of you just having to get a flat or sticker thing. Usually you have to get like a sticker, peel it off and lay it on top of here, but they made it so that the entire plate comes off and you can just replace it with a new one. You can even change the paper texture, which is really neat. So that's one good thing about Wacom. I have mixed feelings about Wacom nowadays because they're so expensive, but since I didn't have to pay for this one, I'm gonna keep using it. But yeah, it's a cool thing about this. It makes me not as worried about the pen nibs, even though with that great thing that they did, they also had a detraction that I'm mad about. For the Wacom pen that I have, this is the Cintiq 2, I believe is this pen. It's an older Wacom pen, and I have two of them because I have bought two Wacom tablets in the past, or I've had two Wacom tablets given to me in the past. But the Cintiq 2 has specific pen nibs, and it used to have pen nibs that were all one size down the length of the nib, so you could flip them. You could take them out, flip to the other side, and put them back in. And some of them even had dual sides where it would be one texture one side, one texture the other. But these pen nibs that they have now are just the straight up plastic, and they're like real small, so once you wear them down you have to replace them. There's no flipping them to the other side, and you get a lot less use out of them that way, and it really sucks. So that's the only downside to the new Wacom. Plus they have the pen nibs that used to have the little textures to them. Like one that I loved, there was one that felt like watercolor paper, but since they changed the tablet interface to have the replaceable paper texture, now they don't do the textured pen nibs anymore. And I liked the textured pen nibs much more, just because sometimes I want to be able to change out the smoothness of my drawing, and I'm realizing while I'm sitting here fiddling with this pen that this is way too sharp to be drawing with, and that I'm just going to replace it. So I can show you how to replace a Wacom pen nib here, if I can get my my stream up. So I've got, this is the little stand that it comes with. It's a little round boy, and on the back of it, it has this little tiny hole. It looks like a hole that you would stick a key in for like something, and you stick your pen nib in that hole and pull, and it'll pull the pen nib out like that. And you can see it's got like a bigger, larger thing, but then like a smaller little body. It's not as tapered. I hope you can see that. And then in the interior of this, if you take your thing, and this is where I have trouble. This is why I'm really lazy about replacing my pen nibs, because you have to turn the bottom of this thing to get them out. Most people don't know that's what's in here. Most people just think that this is like a little weighted pen holder, which it is, but inside is where your pen nibs are, and most Wacom tablets come with 10 nibs. So I think I've used like 12 of the 10 that are not 12, yeah, 12 probably of the 10 that are in here, because I bought another 9 a little while ago. So, oh, come on. Let me in. Open the thing. Stop having it be closed. I wonder if I have another pen nib holder. Let's... Now you see why I'm so lazy about doing this. But I just don't want to be, because I know that this this sketch that I'm working on is going to take me, since it's architectural stuff, it's going to take me bearing down on the tablet a little bit harder to make those straight lines. Which is something that, like, as an artist, you don't really know about yourself until you have been drawing for years and years, and then you realize, like, oh, doing like those little smooth lines, I don't bear down on my tablet as much, but doing the really aggressive straight lines, I really bear down on my tablet. I tend to like really push in, because straight lines take a lot of wrist strength, so I just push my wrist really hard. Oh, come on. I need the pen nibs. Give to me the pen nibs. I wonder if I have like a knife. Ooh, hold on. I'm gonna go find a knife. That's the only downside to the new Wacom stuff. They make it much harder to get into and much more convoluted. Let me in. I'm still fussing with it. There's this little groove in the side where you're supposed to put, I guess, your finger to get it in to use this thing. And I can never, I don't like, I have fingernails, so I can never get my finger far enough in that groove to push the metal, because the bottom of this thing is metal, but the top of it is plastic, and it doesn't have a lot of grip strength, so it's just like, how am I supposed to open this? And it's got a little arrow direction key that's like, open, turn this way, but doesn't matter if you turn it that way, it's not gonna move. I'm gonna put this knife back. one thing I do have is the old Wacom pen nib holder. And all of these nibs are flat too. Well, I might as well put this one in here. I've had this old one since I started university. That's how old this pen nib holder is. It's also covered in dust, but I kept it because that's where all of my dead nibs go. And I think I have another one. Let me see if I do. Because if I can find another old pen nib holder, it probably has nibs in it. Nope, didn't find another one. Well, I mean, at least I have all those flat nibs that I can use technically. Let me in. It's my pen nib holder. Gosh, I hate this because it, like, in order to get into this thing, I have to almost break a nail. It's almost like it has a locking mechanism, but I know it doesn't because I have been able to open it before. Dear Wacom, stop doing this. Gosh, I'm sorry you're just sitting here watching me try to open a Wacom tablet holder pen thing, but I really don't want to mess up my tablet. I'm not super worried about it when I'm just doing like swishy line stuff, but if I'm gonna be doing this like big architectural piece, I don't want to mess with my tablet. I'm gonna go get a kitchen knife, I think. Let me take a sip of coffee before I do. And I'm gonna turn off my microphone, but I'll still be here. I'm just gonna run to the kitchen and try to see if I can open this with a kitchen knife and come back. It looks like, from what I can tell, it's kind of tilted in the place where the grooves set together, so maybe it's like off kilter. And I'll have to use the kitchen knife to put it back on, or back on its like tracks, because it clearly has like screw tracks in it, to make it, you know, go back together. So yeah, I'm gonna go get a kitchen knife. I will be right back. Let me put on the do not disturb on the mic. Alright, I am back. I got it to do what I wanted. I bargained with Satan, and I opened the thing. I have 2 pieces now. So you come with this. This is a paperweight, essentially, this bottom piece, but inside the top piece, it's pretty much like a wheel with a bunch of little pen nibs in it. See? So I'm going to pick out the ones that are not screwed up, and we're going to put a new one in both of my pens, because if I don't put one in both, I will just keep using the pens. And I've done that before where I lose. The reason I have 2 of these is because I frequently put one in the holster and one on my computer, so that I don't lose them. Because if I lose one, then I've got the one in the holster. If I lose the other one, or if I lose another one, I've got, you know, the one that's on my computer and such. Because I, during university, was super bad with losing my Wacom pens all the time. I think I lost like 3 of them. Mostly because I probably would work in the computer lab and leave them there, and they're expensive, so they get stolen really easily. Also, that, like, I'm pretty sure that a couple of times they just got stolen. Like, it wasn't me losing them. But yeah, that's why I have 2, and why I keep 2 on my desk, because if one rolls off the desk, I've got another one. Alright, so then you just clasp this back together, and you've got a little pen nib holder. I'm going to keep the other one close to here as well, so that I've got 2 holsters for each little guy. And now I can use either one of my pens. Sorry about that tangent to go open the pen nib holder, but we are back and ready. Oh, also, this mug. This is my favorite mug when I'm having a bad day. It's a good bad day mug. It's my, like, OCD mug. And when I'm having, like, the days where I can't function, it is the mug that I use. Alright, back to doing this. So, to draw this, I was also, I was looking up reference and stuff, and while I was looking at reference earlier to kind of, like, get the gist of the clothing, I found, like, I dove back into this, like, really old playlist that I had made for Castlevania when I was playing the games, and it's full of, like, terrible visual K, 100%, like, just really not even, like, visual K is usually always good, so it's not even, like, terrible visual K in that sense, but, like, terrible in the sense of it just is just the most 13-year-old thing that I've ever heard in my life, and I had a lot of whiplash happen. But I was listening to it while I was drawing this, so I kind of went ham, because, like, when I'm listening to good, you know, goth music and good visual K, like, I zone out and my brain just goes and I just draw, and I really need to start using that more to my advantage, because I really need to be kind of sitting down to do long form drawing stuff more often, but I haven't been doing that. So maybe listening to music that I would have listened to when I was a preteen is the answer. Alright, I'm looking for reference now for his face, just because I don't really draw him all that often, and I want to make sure that I'm giving his facial structure justice. Also, I need to redraw some of his sword as well, because he has a long sword, and I gave him more of, like, a saber. But in the show, they make it a long sword, so. And I kind of expect him to, I expected him to have more of, like, a saber, just by, like, his costuming style, but nope. Alright, cool. I think I've got enough reference now. Continue downloading. I'm just trying to like put all of these together in one folder so I can open them all. Alright, should be good. Close that. File. Open. Oh, the other thing that I wanted to mention while I'm here is I did start finishing up on the mermaid drawing that I did that I was like, I'm not sure if I'll ever have time to finish this. So let's just for funs and giggles, here's the process of how that's going. I'm in the middle of putting in all of the whites for the wash of the ocean, and putting in like the gradients and stuff. I put in the gradient for the bottom of the sea, and then I'll probably be adding in more like shadows and highlights, but I'm actually pretty proud of it. It's going pretty well. I also added in some more details like the open sign and added in some details in the face. So I'm happy with it. That's the other file that's open here, so you can see it at the top there. Other than, I don't remember, oh, I named this file Sketches of Castle Basel because I will never write Castlevania by itself, and I do not know why, but that's just like a thing whenever I'm naming files in my folders and stuff. I always name Castlevania things, just random stuff like Castle Basel, Castle Hassel, Castlevania. Just if I can mispronounce Castlevania in any stance, I will. And I was a little while ago, Netflix was hiring for the Castlevania animation, or I don't think they were hiring specifically for that team, but they were just hiring for animators. And I remember specifically applying because I was like, well, why not? It doesn't hurt to apply. So I applied to it, and I was talking to a friend, and I said, I don't think I can work for them, because if I work for the studio that's doing Castlevania, I'll never be able to say Castlevania to anyone seriously with a straight face. I will 100% always mispronounce Castlevania, and there's nothing I can do about that. And it's gonna be an interesting time. Right, this, oh, okay, this I grabbed because I liked how this artist drew his face, because I was looking for face reference. Cancel. I'm putting all of these on the side, and then I'm gonna zoom in on them so I can have them. Let's do a zoom. And none of these are very good quality pictures, but they're what I can find. And this one I like a lot. I don't have like the place I downloaded it didn't, obviously this is super grainy, but where I downloaded it didn't have the artist. So if you like, I have the artist's signature in here, you can see it in the corner, but I don't recognize that name. So if you know who this is, hey, thanks. This is a really good drawing of this face. I enjoy it, and I'm going to use it as reference. I'm sorry. But it's just, I really like the way that, especially this person, the way that they drew the nose. I like that a lot. So, which is something that I'm like a little bit insecure about when I draw Alucard, because I never draw him, at least in my opinion, I never draw him with a sharp enough nose. So I always worry about it. Alright, we're gonna go in, we're gonna fix up face drawing a little bit. I'm gonna grab a darker brush. What is this? Dark brown, that works. And I'm gonna make my layer that's on top of the sketch a little darker. So if you're new here, this is how I always do my sketches. I do like a really rough sketch below, usually in a color line like red or blue or cyan in this case. And then I just, instead of taking these both and like trying to get them to go to the temperature I want, I just make a layer of the same background color, and then I also duplicate a layer like this and pull it all the way to a hundo, and then I can toggle. That way I'm not toggling 2 layers on and off. I'm not going like this every time I want to look at it. It's a little bit more of a keystroke for me to do that than toggling just 1 layer. So this is how I usually do it, and I put it at whatever percentage I think is good, and then we go in. I'm gonna need a much smaller brush because I made him very small in this one little corner. Alright, now give him the pointy nose. And also, since this is like extreme foreshortening, I wasn't really sure how to draw this nose shape in an extremely foreshortened way when I was doing this. I gave him more width in the nose than I think he actually has. I gave him more of like a wider nose, and I think his nose is more of like one of those that comes out and then like slightly down. So hopefully revising it here will make it look a little more accurate. I'm also going to add just like the base shading to the face. I drew this coming off of doing some pages for Handbasket, so a lot of the drawing style is very close to the way that I draw stuff in that, which is just extremely, like, very, I don't know whether it would be considered like Western influence or if it's more French comics influence. It's kind of a combination between the two, because I tend to draw things in a very washy, watercolory, like French comics way, but then I've got a very Western comics kind of influence, which, by the way, I don't consider French comics to be technically Western comics. By Western comics I mean like Americanized comics. But yeah, I usually draw things in kind of like a blend between those two styles, and then I usually have a bit of like Art Nouveau influence in that too. And it's different than my painting drawing style, so whenever I'm switching between the two, it's always kind of jarring, because I go from drawing like, because my comic style is meant to be easy to draw. It's meant to be the style that I can like hash out very, very quickly without revising a lot of stuff, because comics you have to work fast, and I developed that style specifically so that I could work fast. And then whenever I switch to painting style, it's more like, oh, I gotta slow it down, I gotta actually think about how each of these things would interact with this other thing and all that stuff, and my brain isn't trained to do that. It's kind of like if you're used to like a first-person shooter game and then you go into an adventure game, and it's like, these are the same tools, but like I'm not used to not having to press a button to reload all the time, you know? So, alright, go in and add in eyelashes and eye shape. I also gave him quite elongated eyes, and he actually has much rounder eyes than the ones that I gave him, or much, not rounder, but slimmer eyes than the ones that I drew here. For some reason I remembered him with more wide open, softer eyes, but they really like amped up his BL like diagonal eyes a lot in the animation, more than I thought they did. I really thought that it was more of like a softer, like quiet, like really clear kind of eye shape, just because like he's such a pure boy in the show. Like he's so pure, and so like, I mean, the first season like even touches on this a little bit. He never got to grow up, so he like acts like he's kind of a 12-year-old kid a lot, and like I think that's why a lot of people related to him, especially a lot of queer people, because he has that sort of experience of like never getting to be an adult. And So he's got this like very pure like sentiment around him, and I just assumed that the eye shape that they would give him would kind of reflect that. And I like the subversion that he still has these very like almost evil looking like, these are the eyes, if you were drawing these eyes in a comic, these are the eyes that you give to a BL villain. These are like queer comic villain eyes, essentially. And same with the eyebrows. The eyebrows are very very aggressive as well. And I like the bravado of the art team of just like, no, we're just gonna give him those eyes. Like, why not? But yeah, I like his character model for the show a lot. I mean, I love it for the games too, but the game art, because it's Castlevania and it's been around forever, the game art for Alucard is, at least the pixel art and the sprite art is not great, because it's a really old pixel art. But the like actual game art is really pretty. Like the example that I have over on this side, this one for the coat, I like that a lot. Really good game art. Really good promo art for that and concept stuff. It's got a very, again, comic book kind of vibe to it. Having eyebrow struggles here. I think they're like this. They like taper in the front and then are wider above. At least that seems right to me. I'm also gonna give like a little bit of hairs in it, just to, yeah, it looks okay. This one over here I have some issues with. I don't know if the eyebrow is just like sitting too low for me or what, but maybe I'll come back and fix it in the next iteration of the drawing. Also, I'm realizing I did fix the nose a little bit, but I'm going to tweak it again because I think it got just a bit too narrow. This foreshortening is really screwing with my brain, because it's really quite different here. All right, this also needs to be backed up and pulled up a little bit because of that foreshortening. That should be okay. This is what doing more final sketches is for, is to figure all this stuff out. Okay. He has a rather soft face line. So, I mean, gosh, I hate that my phone does that. I don't need that ringtone every time something happens. Alright, so he has this rather like soft wedge-shaped jaw, and I think I'm gonna go in a little more than the sketch that I gave here. Because his jaw isn't super wide, it's more like pointed at the bottom. I'm going to give him a little bit of depth right here, just like a slight tiny corner, because nobody has a jaw that's just like absolutely a point, really. Like everyone has, you either have like a little nubbin of like fat or skin texture right there, or you have like, if you're like me, you have this like more square thing. But either way, you're going to have like some sort of rounding at the bottom of your jaw. Also, I'm realizing that the lips are a little bit off too, so I'm going to draw in the lips that I gave here, and then we're going to mess with them until they are sitting correctly on the, sitting appropriately on the anatomy of the face. This is what doing all of these sketches does. You just have to like go in and fix everything 300 different times. But the end result is pretty good. Okay. Alright. Now we're gonna move the lips a little bit. pull them down slightly. Because it's foreshortened, but he has a rather long face. So I want to make sure I'm still adhering to that too. And in the show, they give him really, really thin lips, but I disagree with that. Mostly because I like to draw thicker lips on characters. So, Netflix, you're wrong. You're incorrect. So I'm just gonna give him the lips that I would draw anyway. And technically, I would kind of draw, like, him having these almost squared off lips here. But I don't want to go overboard and give too much width between the upper lip and bottom lip, because when drawing men, you can really quickly go into like territory by doing that, and he's already a really, really pretty dude, and I don't want to like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with pushing that boundary, but for Alucard specifically, I don't want to push that boundary. Because I want to, they did a good job in the Netflix art of him. They like did a lot of really good tells to be like, no, this is still a dude, even though, and like gender is a construct and all of this is fake and blah 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 blah. But like they did some great tells to extrapolate, like to still give him that masculinity without having to, without delving into the stuff that normally they do to like give character masculinity. Like they let him still be pretty, but they give him like little small facial tells that are like, yeah, yes, is mask, you know, instead of being like more like Trevor, where Trevor's whole thing is he has a lot of like pent up toxic masculinity, and they gave him a lot of those attributes to kind of convey some stuff about the way that he relates to his own masculinity, which I think is really neat. And I like the differences in masculinity that they gave him, because Alucard, it is a much softer version of masculinity, but they never in the show really portray it as less valid than Trevor, which I like a lot. I like that they kept him having this sort of softer, very emotional like story arc and personality, and they didn't really make fun of it, you know, like they usually do in shows and cartoons. I'm used to like Americanized cartoons where if a character presented like this, they would be the butt of the joke, and in this, him being like this was never a butt of the joke. Him being part vampire, yes, but him being like a little softer, the only thing that they really make fun of him for is that he's a little bit childish, and like that's fair. He never got to grow up, but then the show also turns around and does the same to Trevor. It's the same sort of like back and forth, which is really neat. It's a good way of writing. Like there's a lot to criticize in Castlevania, but this is one thing that I will stick my neck out for and say that they did right. They did a good job. Okay, I'm looking at my stream settings there, making sure that everything is going well. Looks like it is. Okay, back into here. So I'm moving on to lower chin and hair. I gave him like the pointy bangs, but my issue is that they're coming off a little too much like his father's hair, which there's like very subtle differences between the two of them. But in general, Alucard is a little bit softer of a character, and I've drawn him once. Actually, no, I've drawn him twice, I think. So I don't really have much of a memory lexicon of what he looks like, and this is just me kind of like going off of what I remember about him, which was since watching the show and playing the games. It's my memory of Alucard has been altered a lot because it changes with every new media that he's in, so I wasn't really certain like what traits of him I should keep and what ones I should not draw. So most of this is just me refining it, because like in the games he has more of a look similar to Dracula, because being like part vampire, like he looks like Dracula. But in the show they make him look so much more like his mother, because that's like a whole story arc in the show. So wasn't really sure which direction I wanted to go with that. And initially when I was doing this entire drawing, if I zoom out a little bit here and you can see the castle and everything in the background, I was initially, when I thought of this concept, I thought of this being Dracula, but the fan art that I want to do of Dracula is way different than this. And after the ending of the last season of the Netflix show, I was like, this would be a good fan art for Alucard instead of Dracula, because Alucard has the whole story arc of like staying back at the castle and stuff like that. So I'm gonna probably lessen some of the Bang stuff. It's still gonna be up and out. He's still gonna have those ridiculous voluminous Sephiroth bangs, but I'm just gonna make them a little less out there, a little softer and quieter. Alright, there we go. That looks okay. Going alright. Trying to think of other stuff here. I haven't played the games in... It's gotta be at least 8 years now, because I haven't had a system to play them. I don't even remember what my favorite one is. I think my favorite was either Portrait of Ruin or... Oh, it had to be Portrait of Ruin or Aria of Sorrow. It's one of the two of them, but I don't remember. I don't remember which game was my favorite. But yeah, it was one of those two. And I remember liking them both, but I remember having one that I was like, this is favorite Castlevania game. Also, at some point I need to draw some fan art of the Castlevania monsters, because I think this series of games is one of the series that I can attribute to making me into a monster lover, very much so, because the monster designs in this game in these sets of games are just amazing. They're chef's kiss. They're like the perfect, like, you don't get better monster designs unless you go to something like Dark Souls. Like, these games knocked it out of the park, especially for being... Someone's got a loud car outside, but especially for being the games that they were, and being these, like, you know, classic side-scrolly vampire shenanigan games from the 90s and 2000s, and yet they had these like wonderful monster designs and beautiful like art and stuff around just the monsters. Like the sprite art for the monsters was really cool, and it's something that like you don't see a lot in modern games. I mean, you see like monster designs and stuff, but most of the time it's like horror games that do it well. And I guess Castlevania you could classify as a horror game, but it wasn't meant, it's not like set up like a horror game, if that makes any sense at all, because like horror games have this sort of vibe to them of trying to scare you. Like the goal of the game is for the player themselves to be scared, whereas Castlevania, at least when I played it, I'm sure there were people who were afraid of Castlevania who played it and was like, this is too spooky for me, but the game is more of like a side-scrolly RPG than it is a horror game. And that was something that really caught me, because I like spooky themes and spooky vibes, but I'm like, when it comes to horror games, I'm not a fan of like cheap scares. I don't like jump scares. I don't like them in movies. I don't like them in horror games. I think they're cheap, and I think they're not. I don't think they're smart. I'm sure that there are people out there who are like, no, this is the best game because the jump scares are. I don't think that that's a good way to scare people. I don't think that that shows your intelligence as a writer. And like, yeah, I mean, I'm sure some people who are writing horror games like don't care, and they're like, oh yeah, we put jump scares in not because we think we're smart, but because like jump scares are fun. I just don't agree. I just don't think they're fun. So like, when it comes to horror games, a lot of horror games for me fall into that category of like, this is just jump scare porn. Like this is just every turn I have to be afraid that, not of like what you're gonna show me on screen, because most of the time if you get into those games with like the intense jump scares, they're not scary. Like what you see on the screen is not scary. It's that you're afraid at some point that there's going to be something scary on the screen. It's the intent behind it that makes the game have that like scare factor. But I'm never scared by that intent because I just get annoyed. Like jump scares for me turn into me being angry faster than me being scared. And I don't know what about me does this. I'm assuming that it's some sort of fight or flight reflex, because whenever I encounter a jump scare in like a game or a movie and I wasn't expecting it, I just get mad. I'm like, really? Why would you do this? Why would you do this to me specifically? You did this and you went out of your way to make me angry today, and that sucks, and I hate you. Like, that's my entire like view on intense jump scares. So I never run into games very much anymore that are meant to be like spooky, but also meant to be kind of action RPG fantasy kind of games. I mean, obviously the ones that you can list, like I can list them on my hand. Like you've got Dark Souls, you've got Bloodborne, and even Dark Souls and Bloodborne do jump scares, just not the whole game is predicated on jump scares, but they do some. And then you've got games like Hollow Knight, and Hollow Knight has a slightly different art style than all of the others, but it's got the same sort of vibe. But that's pretty much it. Like, I can't think of very many games that are like action adventure-y that don't do the jump scare thing. And not that it's not fun. Like, it can be fun, especially if you've got like a group of friends and you all want to play games, like y'all want to play Phasmophobia together or something. Like, I like that as like a party game. And I like games like that where there's like some sort of party to it, there's some sort of like other aspect of why I'm playing this game. But I'm not going to go out of my way and play a jump scare game to be afraid for no reason. I'm sure there are people in the world who do and think it's fun, but like that's just never been me. Can't be me. So yeah, I really miss like the older style of horror games where it was like, it's less horror games and more spooky games. And like, it's really hard to iterate the difference between the two, to like explain what the difference between spooky game and horror game is. But like the difference is so profound for me that like, it's almost visceral. Like my reaction to a game when it's not like spooky, it's just straight up like, let's just show you gore, or let's just scare you with like the most scary thing that we can find. I just can't play it. Like it becomes this like intense sensation of like, I need to get out of here. And it's not fear, it's just anger and being upset. Like, I almost feel betrayed. And like, that's not even to say that I don't like gore. I love gore, especially in games. Like, I love it to have some reasoning to the story though. Like, I really love Devotion for that reason. And I know it's like got banned on a bunch of stuff because what the Chinese developers put in there politically. But like, I loved the game Devotion for like the sole reason that the gore and the scariness and everything had a purpose. Like, yeah, they show you some grotesque stuff, and there are jump scares, but all of them have a specific intonation in the story. All of them have a reason to be there, and it's not just like spooky thing because spooky thing. And I know I probably sound like hypercritical of modern games, and that's not the case. There's a lot of modern games that I love, but I just miss games like Castlevania a lot. I miss that sort of vibe, that like traditional game vibe, a whole hell of a lot. They're really good games. If you haven't played Castlevania games, I highly recommend going and playing some. They are old, so you are gonna run into like the playing the old game vibes of like the graphics are not 100%, and some of the art is a little weird. But other than that, like, they're pretty solid games. And I'm a little sad that they don't. I mean, the Netflix series is helping, but they don't really get the level of love that I feel like they kind of deserve to have, you know? They kind of get washed aside when people talking about like game nostalgia. People often talk about like the old Zelda games and stuff like that, and like the old Castlevania games weren't really spoken of except for in like small forums. But now that the Netflix show has started up, there's been a whole new swath of people to play the games, and I'm super excited about that because they're really fun games. It's hard to find systems nowadays that play them though. Like I think the most recent games were like PlayStation 2. If that, they might have been PlayStation 1. I think they were PlayStation 2 era. So finding something that can play these games is a bit of a challenge too. But once you do, it's very worth it. Also struggling a little bit with getting this hair to go over the collar that I built. Ooh. The fun vibes, the fun vampire vibes of like giving your character a really big collar and then like not knowing how to draw anything on top of it. Ooh. Alright. So I haven't decided what I want to do with the sword that I drew here, because I originally drew it like with both his hands like this, and you can see the indication of where I wanted the sword to be, like right here. But I kind of think it might look better to have it going across the body like this, because he can, if you haven't seen the series, they gave him magic sword powers, which I think is baller. So Alucard has these essentially sword arts powers that he can do, where he can like withdraw his sword to him, levitate it, you know, pretty much use it kind of like a boomerang essentially, and it's really, really cool. And I love how it's animated, especially in the first fight that he has with Trevor. Beautifully animated fight. Like, that is a really good introduction to this character. That was great, top notch. Especially the banter. They did such a good job with that. But yeah, they gave him this sword technique, and I wanted to have him levitating the sword in this drawing. But I'm struggling to figure out how I'm gonna make that happen. How I'm gonna do that. I think I will put it sideways, like I said, and just have it be kind of floating here. Also, I'm noticing that it looks like pretty much every single one of these does not have his ear visible, so I'm not going to completely erase it because I like this ear that I drew. I don't want to get rid of it, but I am going to put some folds of hair on top of it. I think that might be the thing that's kind of making it look like Dracula, though, because that's something that's slightly different between their character designs. Is Alucard's hair is a lot fuller, and because it's fuller, you don't see his ear as much. But when you look at Dracula's character art, you can see Dracula's ear through his hair, and his hair has more of like a square design to it, as opposed to Alucard's, which is more of like a rounded in the back kind of tone. And it's funny because in some of the character art, it almost looks like he's wearing a ponytail because of how like bunched up and rounded the hair looks. So it's very interesting. Just little like small art differences that the team made between the two of them is really cool, especially considering that like they're father and son, and you can start noticing little like tonal things that they gave each of them to kind of like convey that. Just, again, chef's kiss. Like the animation in this show is great, and then little things like that are amazing. It's just really neat. Okay, I'm gonna give him the collar bit that I was gonna give him. The only problem is I can barely see the drawing of the clothing. So I drew the clothing and the figure on separate layers. And the layer that I have for the clothing I think is a little bit too soft. So I'm going to pull the layer up a little bit. This is probably it. No? Yes? No? Yes, that's it. And then is this which one is it's the red drawing is yeah, this one is the figure. I'm gonna drop this down just a tad so I can see the clothes a little bit better. So I want this. And I didn't go 100% with the clothing here. I just kind of gave him clothes that, like, I wasn't looking at reference when I drew this. So I just kind of gave him clothes that kind of vibed with what I remembered him wearing, knowing that I would come back to it and fix it later. So now I'm going to go in and kind of fix up some of the mood of the clothing. I'm not going to change too much of what I did, but I just want to fix some little bits. So he usually has like a coat, and the coat goes over top of everything else, and it's usually got these like kind of button detailing, and then he's also usually wearing some sort of cloak, and then an undershirt, usually also with some sort of like corseted thing. So I'm gonna be adding in all of that as well. Since I have that red drawing underneath, I can kind of see where the clothing would fall. I think what I'm going to do for this is I've got these belts across the halfway point, and originally he's got the cloak over top of the belts, but to kind of mesh it a little bit with what he wears in the show, which is his trousers are kind of pulled up further, and he's got sort of like a billowy white shirt underneath. I think I'm gonna make the cloak tucked into the belts to mimic that like high-waisted trousers pulled up look, and then he's got a capelet kind of cloak on the one side that is not tucked in, and that's gonna be where it's not as out there, not as billowy. I think that's how I'm gonna kind of try to reconcile this a little bit. Trying to combine a bit like what I did for the Hector illustration, if you were here for that, I'm trying to kind of like combine the art styles of both the animation as well as the game. Okay. Also gonna give the coat little folds where it would obviously lay. Something like that. Okay. Alright, there we go. That's okay. That's going pretty well. So, let's see. I think for the rest of the cloak, I think I'm actually gonna get rid of the bottom half of this. Because it might actually be beneficial to just make it go longer. Just considering what I've already got here, might be okay. I'm gonna erase what I've got, and then I'm gonna put it on a separate kind of layer and try to draw it out. So I'm gonna get rid of this and also gonna get rid of the backdrop, just so that I can see what I'm doing a bit better. And then I think it was this, yeah, this layer. I'm gonna get rid of everything that's not like the coat sketch, just because yeah, so this is the sketch for the coat, and I'm realizing that like the coat, while it's got some good like layering and stuff in there, it's a little bit off. So I'm gonna go in here and kind of draw over the sketch a little bit and make sure that it's working okay. To do that, I think I'm just gonna go in and kind of draw over it for now. I'll go back and fix it later. It might be a thing where I've like kind of used the lasso tool to move stuff in here. That's thrown this off kilter. So if I just kind of go in and redraw the sketch a little bit so that it's more visible to me, I can probably move it into place. Alright, collar. Something like that with the really billowy kind of piratey kind of shirt. Since this is a collar here, I'm actually gonna pull this like that. I totally forgot it was Friday night. Wow, my brain is not working today. Alright. And I wanted him to have these, like, layers on his coat. He doesn't have them in any of the art that I've seen. I just really like the idea of these sort of top layer, sort of like mantle shit situation here. I like that. And when I was doing a sketch for Trevor a little while ago, I did that as well, which, by the way, if you don't like Castlevania, it's probably a good idea not to watch my Twitch for a while, because I'm going to be redoing the Hector art, and then I have an idea for a drawing for Trevor, and then I have an idea for a drawing for Sypha. So we're going to be here in Castlevania land for at least like 3 or 4 weeks. Sorry. That's just, my brain is hyperfixating on this and this only. It will not let me do anything else, so we're gonna be here. Alright, lay in that cloak situation. I don't really like the perspective on this. I think that's a little too out there. Yeah, see, the issue that I'm running into is because of the foreshortening. A lot of the detail work that I was doing on the coat is coming up a little short and not as detailed. I see. This is one of the cuffs right here. Some of this is hard for me to see, and I'm the one who drew it. You always know that's like a bad sign when you're the one who drew the thing and you have no idea what you just drew. Alright. Yeah, something more like that. I want like a fairly pointy edge of this coat, like where the shoulders would be, something like that. Let me check on everything on the stream. It looks like stream's running all right. It's a little bit slow, but there's not a lot I can do about that. Okay, back to coat boy. Another little cuff. That's the wrong angle. That might be why this arm looks so weird. It should be more like that. I'm gonna give him little spots where the cuff kind of like tapers inward. And then the edge of the coat should be about here. Something about the way these shoulders are positioned doesn't look right to me. I think this shoulder on this side is a little bit too low. It would be more like that, and then I think the arm on this side is a little bit too, it's a little like out there. I think it would be lower as well. I also think it would probably be closer inward than what I've got here. This is a really extended out kind of arm. Tilted upward a bit more. Yeah, that looks good. Cool, thanks for saying streaming fine. Sometimes I get worried that the audio has shut off again or something similarly shenanigan-like has happened on my stream. That tends to happen a lot. Okay, Let's go in and add in hands to where I've done this so that I can make sure that the hands look okay next to everything else. I just get like super into it when I'm drawing stuff, and I like forget that I'm streaming a lot, and I forget that like I should be checking on the on how the stream does and on all that stuff. So if that ever happens, just yell at me in the chat and I will go and fix whatever the issue is. I just get so into doing my own stuff and I forget. Taper the shoulder bits. Yeah, there we go. Oh, just cracked my neck. Okay. There. Coat. Coat. For once. I'm saying coat and then I'm like remembering Name of the Wind. That's another one that I have on my list of fan art that I need to do. Name of the Wind. I've done fan art for Name of the Wind several times. I actually did like an alternate book cover at one point and won some sort of contest with it. It was like some literary book cover contest. It's really neat, but I haven't done actual Name of the Wind fan art in a while. I did some extremely gay Name of the Wind fan art a while back when I read it with a friend of mine, or more like when my friend read it and was talking to me about it, because I also cosplayed as Kavoth, or Kvoth. I don't know how to say it, but cosplayed as the main character, the young version, to a couple of cons, and my friend was Bast, and it was really good. But yeah, I really want to do some more fan art, just because like whenever I get into fandoms like this, especially when it comes to things like Name of the Wind, for some reason book fandoms are like this, and I don't know why it's just book fandoms, and not like, I mean, video game fandoms have this issue too, but usually games are a little bit more queer. Like, you get into a game fandom like Castlevania and there's just a bunch of like loud gays who are just like, I want to sleep with Dracula, you know, or at least where I am in the fandoms that I'm in, that's usually the sentiment that I come across, you know. But when it comes to books and like book groups, every time that I've been in a group that has to do with Name of the Wind, which is the thing that I'm referencing, anytime I'm in a book group like that, there's always just a weird collection of straight people who are like, you can never read any of this passages as a gay person. If you're gay, the passages shrivel up. You like, gays can't have this book. Just like shenanigans like that happen a lot, and I come in there and I'm like, I made fan art of the two main characters who are both male and live together, and one of them talks endlessly about how he misses what the other one used to be like, and admires him completely and unyieldingly for the entire book. And I think they are gay, and then like I'll get 3,000 cishets who will come into my mentions and just be like, how dare you, how dare you think that these are queers, they can't be gay because one of them talks about sleeping with women. And it's like, yeah, bisexuals exist, my dude, my guy. But for some reason book fandoms are always like this. Book fandoms just have this issue where you get into the like Game of Thrones. I read, but I did not enjoy. But people complained about this, or at least my friends complained to me about this being a problem in that fandom too, of like, you can't ship these two characters because they're not gay. And like, I don't know why fandoms are like this, but they're always like this, and so it kind of drove me away from making King Killer fan art for a while, because I didn't want to deal with the fandom. Every time I made anything for the book, I was always, or if I cosplayed from it, people would be like, "Oh, you're a girl. You should have been Ari." And like, hello, one, I'm not a girl, and two, there are other better female characters in King Killer, in my opinion, and three, they're like, you can't dictate what someone else cosplays, even if I was a girl. But I would get just troves of people. Thankfully not on Tumblr as much, because Tumblr is very gay, but generally I got this sort of interaction on any group that I was in that was specifically dedicated to the book. So I was just like, I'm just gonna like this thing quietly in my own space, by myself, and not talk to anyone else about it. But now a bunch of big YouTubers are talking about it because they finally picked up the book, even though I read it like, God, how many years ago? 2016, 2015? 6 years ago? I've been waiting for the third book for 6 years. Oh, that's painful. Painful. I need the third book. Like, I'm happy that more people are into the fandom now. I'm glad about that. I'm so happy. Can't wait for more people to read and enjoy this book series, because it's so good. So good. Highly recommend. If you like fantasy and you like high fantasy adventure shenanigans and stuff, very good book series. It's essentially, it's Harry Potter but with debt. Like, literally student loan debt is a big plot point in this book, and it's the most, I've never felt so seen by a book before, because like the way that it portrays student loan debt and what the characters have to do to get out of that student loan debt is so appropriate. It's so good. It's such a good thing where people are like, you can't have non-capitalism in your fantasy, and like, you can't critique capitalism with fantasy. Your world has to run with money. And then like, King Killer is just like, bet, hold my beer. Like, it's really good, because like, it's still, the entire series still operates under a pseudo-capitalist society. However, at every single turn, the author, Pat Rothfuss, is like always being like, this is wrong. Student loan debt is wrong, and you should agree with me that it's wrong. Here's 30 reasons why it's bad. And it's perfect. And a lot of the world building is really amazing, and the prose is really nice. It's very flowery and pretty, which like some people don't like, but like personally, that's the kind of writing that I gravitate toward. I love like extremely soft, like flowery prose that's like almost like poetry, and this has a lot of this. So if you're looking for a new book to pick up, I know no one has time to read these days, but if you have time to read, pick up Name of the Wind. It is a very good book. The first one hooks you very, very fast. It is extremely addicting. I read the first book in, what was it? Like, I want to say in a week. The book itself is somewhere around 1,200 pages. The first one. The second one I think is longer. And I binged that in a week. Like, I did not leave my bedroom because I was reading this book. That's how addicting that book is. And I have ADHD. So for me to like sit down and not leave my room to read a book, I mean, I would say that that's impressive, but it's actually really not. That was all of my high school. But like, as an adult, for me to do that is pretty rare. There's not a lot of books that can hook me like that. So it's a very good book, and I definitely recommend picking it up. I don't want to spoil anything in case anyone who hangs out here has not read it, but it does ramp up quickly. People say that it's slow in the beginning, and like, that's sort of true, but it's also it's one of those like I wouldn't say it ramps up. Like, the action doesn't really ramp up because it's, again, it's a very flowery prose kind of book, so it doesn't have a lot of like, and then we fought, you know what I mean, or and then the war. Like, none of that happens really. But there's a lot of like political intrigue. I would compare it, if I were to compare Pat's writing to anyone else's, like any other author that I enjoy, I would compare it highly to Anne Rice, because Anne Rice's books, especially her later books, are very in the same vein of like super flowery prose, but not a lot happens. And Pat's books are similar. They're very like, oh, the prose is super, you know, out there, but like they've been standing in the same room talking to each other for like 50 pages now, you know? And there's a lot of like political stuff that happens that you kind of have to be there for, even though the book itself can run kind of slow in those moments. Like, you have to pay attention to that political stuff to know what's going on later. There were multiple instances, because like usually when I read books, I read very fast, and when I am reading a book very quickly, I tend to like not absorb what I'm reading. Like, I will read it and then just like keep going on the passage, and Kingkiller is not a book that you can do that with. Like, you have to know what the world is about, what's going on, who is with who is speaking to who is friends with who's not friends with who else. Like, it's a book that you have to pay attention to. There's a lot of like hidden stuff in it as well. There's a lot of mystery and intrigue, which is again why I need book 3 yesterday. But currently, it, like, if you can't do unfinished series, it is unfinished, and it's on its second book. There's supposed to be a third and final book. There has been talk of the third and final book for years now, and they haven't done it. Pat Rothfuss hasn't done it. Every time he's confronted about it, he always talks about his own like physical and mental health, and he has to take care of himself, and like, you know, so I never say that you should harass him or anything like that, but like, you know, just be aware when you start the book that there's not a third one yet. And you might end up like me and end up completely addicted with no outlet, to the point that you cosplay from this book. I think I've done it 3 times just to assuage some of that like feeling, that vibe. But yeah, I plan on doing some fan art Fridays that are from Kingkiller, because oh boy is that book good. Although I will say, as a queer person, it has some cishet nonsense in it, and I think that's just, it's par for the course. Like, if you have ever experienced fantasy literature, it's fantasy literature cishet nonsense. Same as like Game of Thrones. I personally, I don't like Game of Thrones. I'm gonna lose a lot of followers for saying that, but I think Game of Thrones is terrible, and I agree that it's culture, it's like culturally important, but like the book itself, or the books themselves, are incredibly dry and boring, and I don't care for rape or war. So yeah, Game of Thrones is out, but it's got the same ilk of cishet nonsense as Game of Thrones sometimes, where it's like, why are these 2 characters fucking? I don't understand. it's oh, oof. And there are like several pages dedicated to it, and you're just sitting there like, why is this a sex scene? Especially me, like, I'm just like, okay, cool, when do I get the long sex scene with Bast? When does that happen? When do I get that story? But if you can sit through that, if you could sit through Game of Thrones, you could probably sit through the sex scenes in Kingkiller. But yeah, it's the very good book. Highly recommend. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 good book. But that's been my most recent like book thing that I've been on, and I just can't wait until I have more time to actually do fan art of Kingkiller, because the old fan art that I did, since it was a queer fan art, and since it was mostly like sketches, I didn't really keep much of it. A lot of it is just like in folders in my old computer, because it's just a bunch of like little doodles, little gay doodles, like how I always do. But I want to do some like actual serious fan art. I think the most serious one that I have is the book cover that I did, and it's so old at this point that it's not really even that relevant, because it's just kind of one, my old art style, two, I think it was traditional art, or at least some form of it, and it was also a university project, so I had zero time to do it. But yeah, that's gonna be a fun time doing that fan art. Cannot wait for that. I don't want to cover up the stairs with this. I have this like thing of the cloak billowing out this way, but I've also got a stairwell right here that I don't want to cover up. So maybe not. Okay. Yeah, that's better. I was wondering why that wasn't looking right. It's because the billowing cloak thing is the thing that I shouldn't have on there. Alright, where are we at on time here? We have been live for 2 whole hours. So, oh hey, Crazy Loophole, thanks for following. You're probably not here anymore, but thanks for following me anyways. Followed me like 2 hours ago. Oop. Totally missed it. But yeah, thanks for following me. Let me check on everything online, make sure that we're still running right, running good. Make sure that everything is still going well. Go back to my stream dashboard here. Sorry, using stream dashboard and all this stuff is it's difficult. Okay. So since we're at the 2-hour mark, I think I can feel my hand cramping a little bit, so I'm gonna take a little short break. Usually when I'm streaming, I only go for like 3 to 4 hours, so I'm just gonna take my break now, and I will be back in like a few minutes. I'm not gonna put up the BRB screen, and I'm not gonna like leave camera because I don't need to go get food or anything like that, and I've already got the last of my coffee here, so. And I don't really want to drink any more or eat anything else, since I do need to go to bed, since I have an interview tomorrow. I don't need to be in bed until later, but I do want to make sure that I'm at least somewhat in bed by a reasonable time. Let me pull up my stuff here. Save the photo that I have. could go for some Oreos right about now. I should have bought Oreos at the store. I've been trying not to buy Oreos because I know myself and I know I'll just eat them all in one sitting because I'm an idiot. But I really crave some Oreos. And I need to go back to the store tomorrow anyway because I'm out of pancake mix because I used the last of it to make some scallion pancakes since I had to rescue my scallions. Okay, let's go here. What should we post on the Twitter? On the Tweeter Totter? Gotta go to my Twitch and link it. Alright, cool. Made my Tweeter post on the Tweeter, and I'm gonna put my my view back here. Check on my other screen. BRB. Sorry, I have to get up to see my other screen, but I like to make sure that it's running smoothly as well. I try to keep both screens running well, because if one of them stops, then I have no way of knowing what's going on with the stream. And I really should fix that. My second screen has a like stop thing or motion, I guess is the right term. Sorry, I'm like adjusting my mic. There we go. It has like a stop motion on it where after a certain amount of hours it will stop running. So I like to make sure that the stream is running smooth and get up and like go look at it every once in a while. Alright, let's get back into this. Drink a couple sips of coffee. I'm starting to get kinda hungry, so I might make like a midnight snack here after I finish the stream up. Wonder what I should make, or if I should go. Ooh, I could go run to the coffee. I could go run to Parker's. I could get like fresh coffee from Parker's, and get like a sandwich or something. I don't know. I'll think of something. Parker's, by the way, it's Parker's Urban Market, and it is, if you are not anywhere near the States, it is a gas station normally. However, where I live, there's this place called Fancy Parker's, and it is honestly like, just imagine like the most bougie gas station you've ever encountered. And they have things like, the thing that they're famous for here is late night breakfast. They have from like 2 a.m. on to like early morning till I think 4 a.m. They make fresh breakfast at night, and you can go in and get like anything. Like they have fresh eggs, they have wraps, they have egg salad sandwiches, they have fresh bacon, grits, pretty much anything you could imagine. They make it fresh at this place. And it's also it's still a gas station as well. It still fits that that descriptor of gas station. You can still get gas there. However, they have like this fancy breakfast, and it's called Fancy Parkers, and you can also buy like souvenir stuff there. They have like clothing. They also have fresh donuts. The entire place, like imagine if you've ever been to Japan, like a Japanese 7-Eleven. However, it is full of like Southern American food instead of like onigiri. It's like grits and collard greens. It's very bizarre if you're not used to it, but it's extremely good. And I always love going there late at night when I'm doing nighttime streams, or when I'm doing like anything that involves me staying up late. I will go and get something from Parker's. And I used to go much more frequently. I can't go frequently anymore because I do have allergies now, so I can't like run to Parker's for every single time I'm hungry. But when it's a day where I've got a lot to do and I don't have a lot of time, I'll still run to Parker's just for funsies. Alright, I'm looking at the sketch here. There's something a little bit off. I can't tell what it is. It's something between this, the body, and the face. I think the face might be like a hair too small or a hair too large, and the arms and everything on the body might be a hair too large. It just seems like the torso is a little large for the bottom half. So I'm gonna grab pretty much the entire whole torso, and I'm not gonna alter it too much, so I don't want to fully mess it up. But this, and then shrink key. Oop, that's not what I wanted to do. That just deletes it. Shrink it down. Oh, that grabs the face too. Okay, cool. Well then, in that case, I'm just gonna select everything up here. Shrink it down, because I've got the double select over on the side done. Okay, there we go. That seems a little bit better. The torso just wasn't fully fitting the perspective, so handling that now. And then I also want to take this leg and angle it slightly, because I want him to look like he's walking. Same with this one. This one's going to be a bit harder to grab since I have that edge of the coat in the way, but it's fine if I clip part of it. I just want to grab the leg a little bit. Angle it outward, maybe? No. Also, it looks like some of the shoulder bits got a little too high as well, so just gonna go in and kind of fix those. Alright. Also going to take this bit and raise it, because I think the shoulder bits being a little off is partially due to the head being shrunk down from me like doing that shrink move that I did a few minutes earlier. And that should be pretty good. I'm gonna also add the top cloak here, which is gonna be a bit harder to do now that I've like omitted all of that shoulder padding that I added before, because that was where I was gonna connect it, but I think it's still gonna look okay connected this way. I just really want to make sure that I'm not covering too much by adding it. Drapes down like this, goes like that, and then kind of want it to swipe across here. That, and then have it also swipe around this way. But again, I don't really want to cover up that stairwell right here, so there we go. Something like that. That way we've got like an indication of that top cloak, that kind of wrapping all the way around the body, but we don't have to go in and like draw every bit of it. Yeah, every time I try to add anything to this, it's gonna cover up those stairs. That's not what I want. I want at least to still have the indication of those stairs being there when I'm done with this. So any decision that I make has to be with full intention behind having those stairs there. I'm also gonna add bits of the cloak that go here and come over top like that. Have it connect like this, I think. And then time to add hair. So I think I'm gonna go shape kind of like this, and then it's going to flow downward like that. That kind of gets rid of the need for this bit here that comes over top. So I'm just gonna get rid of that. Okay, there we go. There's that. So that's the rough idea of that 4-figure drawing of Alucard that I have. Want to add some pockets into the coat. So at this point, I think I'm gonna move on to doing a little even more defined sketch of this, because if you look at this, it's still extremely sketchy. There's still a lot of details that aren't really fleshed out. And actually, I should probably do the sword now, so that I know where it is, so that I don't have to do the line art for it underneath everything else, because that would be a nightmare. Yeah, so for the sword, I was thinking putting it here. And thankfully, I just remembered I have a sword pack, so I don't even have to draw it. This is the best thing about using Clip Studio. Okay, so we want effects, and we want, is it in artificial? Is this it? Yes, okay. So then I'm just gonna swipe across and find one that I think fits, or at least fits closely enough that I don't have to worry. I'm also gonna do another swipe. So when it comes to Alucard's sword, he has the closest thing I see here. He has a long sword. I like the handle of this one. This one is the most accurate. This one here. So I'm gonna move this one down. And then I'm going to grab the handle from this one and also move that down, so I can mash them together. And then I'm also going to grab, there's another bit in here that I like. I like the point from this one, but I don't know if it's different enough from the one that I have. It's just that his sword has, if you see, it's like comes closer in the center and goes back out. This one also has that, but it's not as dramatic as this one, as the point that I grabbed. So there's our sword parts. That means the rest of these swords I don't need, so I'm just gonna select everything but 3 that I like. So grab all of them, then hit select inverse, then hit delete, and you should be alright. So then time to merge all of these guys together. So I'm going to get rid of the handle from this sword because I don't really need it. I'm going to grab this one. And turny thing back in it, and attach the handle. Smelt the handle back onto the sword. Like that. And then I'm going to grab this section only, erase that out, grab this section only of this one, shrink this one down to fit, and combine the two. Like so. Then I'm also going to erase this any bits that like kind of mess with the continuity. I'm gonna get rid of. And then the other thing that I wanted is, this is a long sword, so I'm going to make it longer. And in order to do that, I'm going to use this sword here, or at least the body of it. It's not going to be a perfect match because the taper isn't the same, but it's going to be enough to be able to get me there with the sketch, and then as I work on this more, I can fix the lines and the tapering. Now it looks like the broken sword from Lord of the Rings. What is it? What is the name of that sword? I know it has a name. I forget the name. It starts with an N. Because it's also named similarly to the name of Aragorn's people, or at least like the sort of people that he comes from. Alright. If we're going for longsword, it should be about like that. Because technically longsword should be double your arm's length, or double the length of your forearm, which is elbow to. That's like the minimum that a longsword should be, because you should be able to flick it in that motion, be able to like turn it. Ooh, hear that pop? That was my knuckle. That's because I'm not wearing my hand guard today. I couldn't find my my compression wrist guard thing, so I'm not wearing it. Oh, stretch. And every time I don't wear it, it always screws with my wrist. Alright, so that's just the base of what the sword looks like. And it's because it's a stamp, it's not going to look great. So I am going to go back in and draw in perspective for it and everything. But this is just like the main bits. So another thing that you can do that's cool, if you want to add perspective to your sword drawing, is go in here and go free transform and just whap. Now you have a bit of perspective on your swords. You can also flatten this thing so it's not like really messing with the length of it. It is going to warp it a little bit, so you are going to have to go back and draw on top of this. But this just helps you see where the perspective is likely to be for something like this, which is really useful in my opinion, at least, because it helps kind of visualize it. So I want to go with something kind of like this, and then I want the rest of the sword here, so I'm going to select the rest of it. I want that to, it's going to have to tilt slightly up toward the face a little bit, and it's going to have to get like perspective as well. So let's go free transform. Let's tilt you toward his face. And then this side should become, should it be longer? Like that. Alright, there we go. There's all that perspective. I'm also going to pull it a little bit more down and toward this way, just to, so that it's not as close to taking up so much space. And you end up with something like that. God, can you believe that this is just layer number 2 of all the sketching that I needed to do for this? It's insane. There's so much detail, and that's just this. It's not even like the whole backdrop that I drew here. If I unselect everything, look at all that. Look at everything I still have to do. This is just this is the foreground, main person, big image. Oy. Alright, so I am noticing that there's some bits that I kind of drew that I don't think are correct, so I'm just gonna fix those. Alright, I'm gonna get rid of anything that's inside this like sword barrier place. Why is it not? Do I have to select every single layer? Oh, that's so screwy. But it does it for other things, like when I need to move layers that are all together. That's not what I wanted to do. There's that. Also going to get rid of bits of the hair that are kind of messing with this, because I don't want to do anything that's going to cause like a tangent with anything else. Okay, so there's that. Let's look at our time slot. Where are we at? 2.5 hours, and we're at 11:30. It's getting pretty late. I'm thinking when I hit 3 hours, I'm gonna quit drawing. So rather than go on and finish the rest of the drawing this way, like go in and do the rest of the sketching and finish all of that out for the backdrop, I think I'm just gonna refine this major sketch that I've done even more. go in and like add in all the stuff. This is literally just the second level of sketching. So I'm gonna go in and add in all the volume, all the layering, everything that I need to do for this, and hopefully I can get a good amount of that done by the time it's time to call it quits tonight. So just as like a little thing to see, this is how much we still have to do, and I do this to myself willingly, and this is where we're at. Also, I think I'm going to grab our foreground figure and move it down along with all the sketching, just because I keep being worried about that stairwell right there, and I don't want to hit it. I don't want to end up like accidentally covering it all up, so I'm just gonna move this until I'm not stressed about it anymore. And it shouldn't mess with the perspective that much, considering I did such a high level, like 3-point perspective for this castle in the backdrop. I kind of cheated the perspective a little bit for the main figure, but it shouldn't be too bad. I just kind of like cheated slightly, so it shouldn't be horrible. But yeah, we're gonna finish out the rest of this. So I'm actually going to put my thing back, and I'm going to take away that castle bit, so I just have the drawing from the main figure. And I'm gonna go back in, I'm gonna grab all of these layers, duplicate them so that I can see them better, and then I want to actually gonna get rid of everything and merge them all together to a new layer. Then I can put all these in a folder. So we want layer 14, 11, 9, 7, and 5. No, it looks like just 9 and 7. So we're going to grab these two, put them in the folder as well, close the folder, make it invisible, pull it down, and then the rest of these I think can be fully closed out and deleted, because they're just rehashes of this sketch that I've got. Yeah. So the rest of these, since they're duplicates, we delete them. So now I have this, and I have the backdrop sketch as well, this one. So now I'm going to put in the castle backdrop and drop it down real smooth, make sure that I'm not tangenting with any of the backdrop while I do this. And I'm also going to clean up the sketch that I just made. So I'm also going to drop it down to about a 42. And then grab, I was working with a 12. Where are we at? Yeah, because I'm like losing a little bit of the volume from the previous sketch as well. So I think what I'm gonna do is, yeah, just go in and kind of fix this up a little bit, really finalize it and clean it, so that I know where everything belongs, so that I'm not questioning anything or having any trouble with where stuff is going to be positioned. I'm also going to grab this backdrop color and get rid of anything in the sketch that isn't accurate, just so that it's not going to like screw me over later. So first thing I'm coming for, as soon as Clip Studio stops what it's doing, first thing I'm coming for is this sword that I sketched in the middle here. That needs to go. because that is not where I ended up putting that. Also, these hands, because I changed where they were, need to go. And this hand's fine. This one wasn't. And I think that's good. Yeah. Alright. So now I'm going to go in with an even smoother brush. It's really funny looking at it between the two. Like the differences that was made by the second sketch. Alright. Now we're going in with an even smoother brush. I think I'm going to go from a 12 up to a 20. And I'm going to lay in more like decisive lines. I might still use a 12 on the face depending on how this 20 point works here. Yeah, I'm still going to use a 12 on the face. Because you need like real fiddly lines for this. So I'm gonna, this is essentially line art even though I'm using a pencil tool. I just want the texture and grit of this pencil tool in the line art. Do this. Add in our eyes. God, I have so much fan art planned. And I still need to do stuff for Mermaid, and it's already the 7th, so I am 6 mermaids behind. I have some sketched out, but I just haven't had the time to fully finish them yet. They're like in a folder in my computer, waiting to be done. Okay. Got nose. Yeah, this is starting to look cool. I'm enjoying the eyes that I've got done here. They're looking good. All right, lashes. Also want to give a bit of shading under the eyes, just because looks more realistic that way. God, I really picked the worst angle to draw this from. Just absolute worst. I just decided that my life is pain and picked this angle. Oh, Lord. Okay. think of what else I need to accomplish here. You can tell I'm starting to get a little tired, and I'm not used to streaming this late, because I'm losing my brain marbles just a wee bit. Hopefully soon I get into the tired state where I'm like excited. I love tired excited. That's the best kind of tired to be, because then I have a lot of really good ideas for stuff like Handbasket, and I kind of go ham, and I also make a lot of food. I don't know if anyone else does this, but since I have really, really poor ADHD, I used to, when I was in university, I used to abuse my sleep schedule in order to, and I don't know if anyone else has this, but when I am tired, I lose the part of my brain that is hypercritical of everything that I make and do. Like I lose the part that's like, your art is bad, stop drawing, like blah blah blah. I lose that part of me when I'm sleepy, and so I used to, and still sometimes do, not as much anymore, but when I was in university, I would tire myself out, like make myself so tired that I couldn't even walk, and then go, like if I had a critique that day or something, I would just make myself extremely tired before I went, because that meant that I would, the whatever part of my brain retains those memories would not retain the bad memories of what I was experiencing. It would only remember like, oh, you know, we had a slightly negative critique or whatever. It wouldn't retain the critical stuff. And I would do the same thing whenever I had to like turn in a project. I would stay up super late to turn in a project, because not because I didn't do it. Most of the time I would get my projects done. I would just wait until the last second to turn them in, like midnight the night they were due, because I needed that like hyper tired, I'm scrambling for my life kind of feeling, in order to get out of the anxiety brain of, oh, I could just keep working on it though. Because I have this brain capacity that's just sort of like, never finish anything, keep working on it, nothing is ever done. And in order to get my brain to stop doing that, I just make myself really tired, just screw with my sleep schedule until I'm so tired I can't function. I do the same thing for like social interactions. If I have something really important that involves being very social all the time, like recently, like an interview, I will tire myself out beforehand, and people always say don't do that because you're gonna look tired or you're gonna act tired, and you know it's gonna look poorly on you. But when I'm tired, I'm more social, and I'm actually nicer. Like I turn into a good person when I'm tired. When I'm not tired, I like, when I'm sleepy, I turn into less of a dick. I'm less critical of both myself and others, and I'm also often more polite to people. Like I function under societal niceties a bit more, because I realize that I think the reason why I do this is because my brain rations out, like, okay, when people are tired, sometimes they're rude, we'll just be extra nice, so that way, you know, we're not being rude when we're tired. And so we just, like, I overcompensate when I'm sleepy, and I just become like a way nicer person, which is, it sounds really terrible, but it's true. I'm just way nicer when I'm tired. And it people say not to do that, and to be like, oh, plan for your interviews and stuff. But if I just like don't sleep and go to the interview, I usually do pretty well. I laugh at people's jokes, and I'm like, actually a social person, and it's astonishing. So of course, like in university, when productivity matters more than anything, more than life, at least at my art school it did, I would forcibly starve myself of sleep so that not so that I would get my work done, but because that was an aspect too, but I would starve myself of sleep so that I would be nice for the next day's critiques, and so that I would be able to be in public and speak to other people and not overthink it or not stress out about it. And that was like such a weird revelation to have, that it's like, oh wow, I do that. And I don't know if there's other autism people out there who do this, if this is a thing that you also do. This is also why I never really mind when my neighbors are extremely loud, because one, I'm also up at random hours of the night all the time, and two, like, if I'm tired, I just am a nice, happy-go-lucky kind of person. Hey, what's up? Welcome back. You're back. But yeah, it's being tired is the secret weapon of having autism, I guess. Because I just, every time I'm tired, I'm just nicer person, 100%. I think I need to clean this up. Yep, I'm still drawing. I'll be here drawing for at least another half hour. I said I was gonna go until midnight, so we're going until midnight. You eat pizza. I want pizza. I should use the money you gave me to get pizza. I should get pizza. Although I'm not sure if any of the pizza places are open right now. I mean, it is a Friday night. They should be, but I don't know. Sometimes there's weird hours in this town. Oh my god, I just did the thing. Okay, I don't know if anyone else does this. I know I've said this twice now in the stream, like, hey, does anyone else do this weird thing? But, yeah, pizza does make me sick. But I can have Domino's pizza occasionally, and I'll be okay. Because they do have gluten-free crust. And I can get it cheeseless, so essentially it's flatbread, but, you know, I can have Domino's pizza sometimes. It's still not good for me, and I still will not feel great after I eat it, and I don't like pizza, so there's no point in spending that amount of money on it, because, like, the main thing that stops me from getting pizza isn't that isn't like the not being able to eat pizza because gluten-free and vegan and stuff. The main thing that stops me is, like, that's $30 for a food that's like barely a food. Like, it's $30 for something that's not gonna fill me up, essentially. And it's like, for that I could have just gone to Taco Bell and got so many tacos, and then I don't have to worry about the gluten thing if I'm getting crispy tacos, right? Like, so why wouldn't I just go to the Taco Bell and get tacos? Although I think Taco Bell is closed right now. I think they close early on Fridays for COVID. But yeah, anyway, as I was saying, I don't know if anybody else does this thing. What was I talking about? I was talking about something that I don't know if people do. And I know the thing that I just talked about was me saying that, like, I deprive myself of sleep so that I'm a nicer person, which is extremely unhealthy, but it does work. I am a nicer person when I don't sleep. So, and I don't know where that comes from either. I don't know where I got that, like, thing, if it's just like a part of my personality that I'm nicer when I don't sleep. I don't know, but whenever I'm in need of being social and being nice, I will just decide not to sleep the night before. Somewhat nicer. I mean, no, pretty much nicer. Like, when I don't sleep, I am just, yeah, but I'm just like, the thing is, when I don't sleep, I become normal, for lack of a better word. Like, a lot of my idiosyncrasies and like autism symptoms kind of tone themselves down when I don't sleep, because I don't have the energy to function them, so like I don't think about them as much because my brain is conserving energy, so I don't like freak out at small things as much, and my anxiety is toned down because again I don't have the energy to run an anxious thought process. So I just kind of act like when I don't sleep and my brain shuts off for a second, like it just like tones itself down and I can actually focus and think on what I need to do. I always have this thought of like, is this what it's like to be neurotypical, where you just think about what you're supposed to think about and that's all you think about? Like, because that's usually what it is. It's like putting my brain through a slowdown filter, where instead of going 50,000 miles a minute all the time and thinking about every scenario, every bad instance that could happen, everything, my brain slows down and I just think about what's going on in the moment right then. And it's like, wow, I'm a normal person for like 3 seconds. But yeah, that's usually how I go with that when I don't sleep. But as I was saying before, I was talking about the thing that I just did, which is another thing that is a fun little autism characteristic trait thing, where I will, when I need to, like when I have an intrusive thought and I need to clear my brain of it, and there was like a Tumblr post kind of talking about this, but when I'm clearing my brain of intrusive thoughts, I like shake my head to like an Etch-a-Sketch, like shake that out of my brain. Go away, thought. Like, and I just did it a couple minutes ago and I realized that I was doing it and I was like, oh yeah, that's also a thing that I do. Just Etch-a-Sketch the brain. And those are really fun. Like, because I also have that, and then my other intrusive thought thing is I give all of my intrusive thoughts to a lizard that I imagine sits on the side of my face right here, named Dave, and every time I have an intrusive thought, I just say, shut up Dave, no one loves you, or something like that, and it helps, and it's very fun. Intrusive thoughts are not fun, but it's very fun to make fun of them. So it's really funny. But yeah, that's another little like fun ADHD/autism thing that I do. And like I do it a lot when I'm driving because I have a lot of intrusive thoughts about driving. So whenever I have intrusive thoughts about driving, I imagine Dave on the windshield in front of me. I'm like, shut up, Dave. But I usually have intrusive thoughts about like, while I'm driving, I'll have like, cause you know, suicidal ideation happens sometimes. So I'll just have like thoughts like, oh, you should pull over and like ram yourself into that tree. Go do it now. And so I have to tell Dave to shut up a lot when that happens. But yeah, I don't know if any other people with autism have that, but it's very fun little, like, I guess it would be categorized as a stim thing, or like a coping thing, but it's something that I noticed that I do recently, and it's very fun. Especially the Etch-a-Sketch thing. That's like my favorite little like autism trait that I've noticed about myself, that I treat my brain like an Etch-a-Sketch. And it really does work like an Etch-a-Sketch. So like, if you can imagine in my brain, the thought usually when I have thoughts, they pop up in pictures, and it'll like pop up as like a picture of something, and the picture will like flash in my head, and it's usually, if you look at like what I'm drawing right now, it's usually sketchy, kind of like this, and it looks like a drawing, and it'll pop up and it'll be a picture of something. Like, say it's not an intrusive thought, but say it's like apples. Like, I'm thinking of apples, and say apples are like an intrusive thought or something bad that I shouldn't be thinking about, right? It'll pop up with like apple, and it's just like a little sketch of an apple. And then I'll do the Etch-a-Sketch thing, like I'll shake my head, and it'll like shake away and settle, and then it's almost like there's like graphite or ink underneath, and it'll pop up with something else, and it'll just like change topics because I shook my head. It's like really fun, and it's like the way that my brain pictures things and renders things is very interesting to me. And I found out recently that not everyone does that, or not does that, but not everyone like sees things like that, like the way that I do, if that makes sense. Like, a lot of people, when their brain is working and they're imagining stuff, they don't imagine things in that way. Like, some people imagine things almost like a word. Like, when they're thinking of something, it's like a train of like a stream of words, a stream of thought. And I don't have that as much. I do have words that come in my brain, and it's like an internal narration, and those usually come across, like, if you've ever seen that news ticker tape at the bottom of like a news screen, it's usually like that. It's like breaking news, and then it'll like ticker tape across of something happening, and that's usually how that works in my brain. So I do have the words, but it's like more often than not, it's some sort of visual thing that is coming across my brain machine, and my brain will like pop it up like a sketch. And sometimes it depends on how hard I'm thinking about the thing, but sometimes it'll pop up with color, and I can see it very clearly, and I can almost render it in my brain. And it starts out like a little sketch, like, again, say apple. Say I'm like thinking about an apple. I start out with a sketch like what you see here, and then the longer I think about the apple, the more I render it, and it like goes from sketch to paint to like 3D modeled to a fully formed apple. And then I can do things like imagine it sitting on a table, and I can rotate it on that table, and I can push it off of the table, and it falls as if gravity is actually in my head. And I didn't know that other people don't have that vivid of an imagination. Like, other people can't do that. And I talked to a friend of mine recently about this, and I was like, yeah, this is how I picture things. And my friend was like, no one else does that. And I'm like, are you sure? But apparently, like, it's not a very common thing to have this, like, I don't even know if there's a word for it, but apparently it's very uncommon to have your brain function like that and fully be able to like fully render and picture things, and be able to like treat them like the physical objects that they are inside your own brain sphere. So I don't know, I found that out, and I found it was really interesting. I kind of want to see if there's any good studies done on it. I know there's studies done on aphantasia, which is the opposite of that. Aphantasia is when you have your brain doesn't have an internal image of things or an internal dialogue or anything, so you don't picture things, and you can't really picture things in your head. And I know a couple of friends who have that. Strangely, like, two of the people I know who have that are artists, so it's like fun. But yeah, like, I've noticed that a lot of studies are done on aphantasia, but not as much on the exact opposite of my brain imagines too much all the time. But yeah, it was interesting to talk to this friend about that and figure out that I have that thing where my brain just decides that everything needs to be hyper detailed and really realistic and have actual physical gravity and like function like the real world and all that. And I think that's also the reason why I when I'm doing art, I can render things out as if they exist really well, but I'm not as good at one thing I'm kind of bad at, and I'm starting to try to like learn how to draw. I'm not as good as like sci-fi. I'm really good at fantasy, because fantasy is based in like exaggerations of our physical world, whereas sci-fi is based in completely different world, completely different ways that it functions, right? So I'm not as good at sci-fi, because sci-fi, if you tell me that a planet has totally different gravity to ours, my brain doesn't know what that means, because all it does is pull up the exact rendering for Earth's gravity for everything, right? Or like if the structure that I'm building, say I'm like drawing a building, if the structure that I'm building doesn't go by Earth's gravity, doesn't function by Earth's gravity, my brain struggles a little bit. Not that I can't draw them. I've done floating structures before. If I look at the structure that I have in the background of this is a floating structure. It's heavily based on actual castles from our actual world though, so it's not as much, you know, so I have a bit of a basis on it. But yeah, I've noticed that that's a thing that I have a bit of issue with in terms of drawing, is that like sci-fi is just too out there for my brain sometimes, and I'm trying to get better at it by doing things like referencing drawings, referencing photographs of people doing like you know, those, what are they called, weight thing, like zero gravity I think is what they call them, the zero gravity flying simulators and stuff. I've got a lot of stock images from that I've been trying to draw, because like I'm trying to teach my brain how that's supposed to work, and since I have the fun visual library brain that I have, once I learn it, once I teach my brain like, hey, the gravity on this one planet works like this, or hey, this is a really interesting science fact about this one thing, once I learn that thing, it never goes away. So I'm trying to teach myself it so that I won't have to stress about it the next time I want to draw something sci-fi oriented. But I just recently, after talking to that friend, realized that was a big blind spot in a lot of my art, because I draw so much fantasy. Like, I never needed to draw sci-fi work for anything, so I never really thought about, you know, oh, I never draw sci-fi, I wonder why that is. And I just recently got a commission that was sci-fi based, and I was like, why am I struggling so hard? That would be why. But yeah, whew. Let's throw some more shadow on there. This is starting to come along pretty well. I just realized something about the eyebrows. This one is off just by the slightest bit, so I'm just gonna round out the shape of the face to fix it. Also gonna give gonna do the major cheekbones. I forgot that he has really ridiculous cheekbones. I mean, I did on this side, but on the other side I didn't really draw them in. I've also always wanted to cosplay Alucard, but I was always too self-conscious because I have absolutely no muscle structure at all. And he is extremely buff, and especially in the Netflix adaptation, I could get away with cosplaying the game version over here with all the layers of clothing. I feel like I could get away with that, but the problem is building and making all of those clothes. That's a lot of work and effort and filigree that I don't have a lot of time for when I'm doing full-time art stuff. But yeah, I've always wanted to do an Alucard cosplay. Maybe someday I will. Oh, the other really fun thing that happened today. So I was talking to the interview person in the interview, and we were discussing like my art and like where I wanted to go with it, and the plans for the comic, the plans for Handbasket and all that. And she was saying that the art that I had made for Handbasket, the character designs that I made on stream, as well as some of the other art, like the concept stuff that I made, she was saying that she could see somebody cosplaying it at a con. And that was the best compliment I've ever gotten in my life. Like, that was just... I've never had anybody tell me that before. I've had people tell me that my art is good. I've had people tell me that my art is professional and all that stuff. I've never had someone outright tell me, like, yeah, I could see somebody wearing this at a convention. Like... fabulous. I'm so glad, because I was really worried about those character designs. I know it seems strange as someone who like gets on here and streams myself drawing them, but I was really worried. I was worried that they were not good enough for that comic, and that they would kind of not read well as designs, you know, they would kind of get lost. But no, they look great, apparently, according to her. So who knows? But yeah, I was just like a little boost of serotonin that I needed today. Just really came out and made me feel good about myself. It was great. Also, this person assumed that I hadn't graduated yet, and when I was like, oh yeah, I've been graduated, I finished during the pandemic, and she was like, well, for one, congratulations, and for two, oh my god. And I was like, yeah, I finished last year in the middle of the pandemic, decided to come back to school specifically for that. Fun times. But yeah, it was fun. Okay. So we are getting dangerously close to midnight, and I am nowhere near done with the line art of this, but there's Alucard. There he be. There boy. There he is. Other than that, I don't think I have anything to close the night out on. I think I'm just going to finish this up at a different time, on a different thing. I guess we can close the night on... Let's go look at the very first drawing that I ever did of Alucard, or one of the very first. I've got a couple, but let's look at the very first one. I gotta find it first. Let's go into... It is the witching hour, you're right. I got apparently 2 minutes until the witching hour on my screen, but let's go Apollo's art. And let's go my sites. I just paid my dues for my website, by the way. So website's all paid off. That's why I didn't have money for tacos, because I needed to pay my website dues, and it was $90 because websites are expensive. But that includes, that's the website and the domain, so it's not too bad. Let's go to media, and let's pull up the very fun time of switching the stream over to Google Chrome. You won't be able to see me, but you'll be able to see Google Chrome. Make it full screen as well. There we go. Looking at the stream. Yep, there we go. This is the back end of my website. Congratulations. Alright, so I'm gonna scroll until I find it. And there's specifically 2 drawings of Alucard that I've made years ago that I would like to add in here and show you. Okay, so here they are. They're back to back on here. So I'm gonna pull up this one and this one, hit edit, and then I'm gonna go back to my Streamlabs and I'm going to grab, actually, if I go to Google Chrome and put this back like that, shrink down my window here. Don't mind me just messing with this. Alright. And then I can pull up another screen. Add a source. We want window capture. Add source. Clip paint. Add source. Very large source. Zoom back down and pull it over. Throw this under Google Chrome. There we go. So now you can see them side by side and look at the improvement or lack thereof. So also, I think if I hold Alt, I can make this screen smaller. Hang on. Let's go to Google Chrome. This is just me messing with the stream now, but I want to see how this works. I know I was going to go to bed, but I think it's fun. That way, you can see it even closer. There we go. So that first drawing of Alucard that I did there, that one is, let me look at the year date on this. December 1st, December 20. Why is it not showing me? Hold on, back up. Find it. 2018. 1st December 2018. So that was the very first Alucard drawing that I've ever done. And it's just like a really simple sketch and not a lot of detail, not a lot of stuff going on there. Just like kind of paint, and I was messing with backdrop and everything. And then this one, this next one here, this is the next one. So this is not as simple and a lot more complicated with a lot more stuff. And I started it as a watercolor. This one's also, I think this one's 2019. And this one is a lot more me trying to like flex drawing skills and anatomy skills that I had just learned. The only unfortunate thing is it's got a very like tarot style of drawing to it, and I went through like a phase of doing art that was very like tarot oriented. I still kind of do from time to time, and even some of my like stuff that I'm doing now, like the composition of this painting that I'm working on, have been working on for the past 3 hours. Even that one has a little bit of a like a tarot vibe to it, but this, when I originally designed it, was so much tarot stuff in it, and so not my art style, if that makes sense. It's very like, the way that it's laid out and everything is very graphic oriented, and like you can see the way that I've drawn some of the elements, like the castle in the backdrop and the moon, and some elements of it are very, they're meant to be graphic. They're meant to be just like blocks of color, right? And I kind of shied away from the blocks of color painting style a while ago. I still do it on occasion. It's still like a trait that I come back to, but it is a bit more, it is a bit of a different sort of art style now than what I am doing at this very moment, because blocks of color just aren't the way that I paint anymore. The closest that I can get to that is let me go back to my painting stream here. The closest that I get to blocks of color in my art now is, let's close this window. When I go and do the whites of an illustration like this one for Mermaid, these white pieces here are blocks of color. But that's the closest I get, and even those, they're more like lines than they are blocks of color, but they are all on one layer, so I can remove them and put them back. But yeah, that's the closest I get to like laying in chunks of color nowadays. I more do like painterly kind of things. I don't cell shade as much. So both of those paintings that I just showed, they were back when, if it was 2018 and 2019, they would have been the couple years between going back to SCAD. So I was in the mindset of like, I need to have my art look appropriate for comic books. And I hadn't really learned that I could make the art style that I'm using right now work for comic books. I hadn't learned how to integrate that yet. So I was trying to make my art something that it wasn't. I was essentially trying to like do very graphic color style. And then with the other one that's very painterly, I hadn't really learned how to like mesh my illustration style with my comic style yet. So I essentially had two different art styles at one point, because I didn't know how to reconcile the two of them. But thankfully now I'm better. I've learned. I have a more cohesive way of painting and figuring out my art style and everything. So hopefully it's just onward and upward from here. I'm going to zoom out, and I'm going to deselect all of my overlays. But yeah, that's been a stream. This is the end of the night. I'm going to say good night. I'm going to go get some real quick snack foods, and then go to bed, because it's my bedtime and I need sleep before I know I said I function better with no sleep. I'm still gonna sleep before my interview tomorrow, because that seems like a smart thing to do. I want to be a smart adult. I don't want to keep relying on the things that I do, because when I am a terrible baby child man. smart adult decisions. And I say this, and then I'm probably gonna go lay down and play Animal Crossing for like 3 hours. But you know, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna do my best to go to bed. It's bedtime. So I hope everyone who came in from the stream had a wonderful night. Yes, I am going to go to Parker's. I'm gonna go get snacks. But I hope everyone had a wonderful night. I hope you have a chill time after this stream. If you dropped by to say anything, hi. Also, hi, Mom. Anyone who sees my mom in chat, that's my mom. She's always there. She's always watching. No. But she's always drops by and says hi. I know there were a couple of people in chat, and there were a couple of people that followed the stream but like couldn't drop into the chat. So if you're here, feel free to follow me on all of my social media. That's where I post about when I'll be streaming, like today when I had to delay the stream by several hours because my planter broke. But if anything like that happens, it's usually up on Twitter. If it's not on Twitter, assume I'm streaming. If I'm not streaming that day, I will say something. But I'm going to call it a quits tonight. We're going to have a long night ahead of us, and I will see you in the next stream, which is Sunday at 5 p.m. It's either Sunday or Monday. I think it's Monday at 5 p.m. because I am starting a new thing, and I'm going to put both Monday and Sunday on the stream schedule. But the last time I touched it on this, and I guess this is just going to be a little bit of stream updates before we close out, but the last time I touched in on this, I said that I realized that streaming on both Sunday and Monday were not working for me because I wasn't making any art between days anymore, and I was sitting down the day of the stream needing to make the sketch for that day. I wasn't like sketching something and then putting it away anymore because I didn't have time. So I wanted to take one of those days off my schedule just so that I could finish Handbasket, finish the pages, get everything cleaned up and all that stuff. But the thing with that is Monday I have an obligation that I promised to do, and it somewhat interferes with the stream. So it involves like driving and stuff, and I usually don't get back into town until stream is supposed to start on Monday. So 5 p.m. I'm not in town in time. There's my bedtime reminder, by the way. But yeah, I'm not in town in time on Mondays if I am driving that day. However, I'm not always driving on Mondays. There are Mondays where I don't need to do this errand that I need to do. So when I'm not doing that errand, I will be streaming on Mondays. It's usually every other week, and both Sunday and Monday are going to stay up on my stream schedule until I iron out which day works better for me. At this point, I'm just trying to like figure it out. This week, I don't need to go help this person or do this drive, so I will be here on Monday. I know that was long-winded, but there it is. So every other day that I'm streaming, I'm here at 5 p.m. unless something happens, and I'm gonna call it quits. I'm gonna close it out. Have a great night, everyone. Happy Fan Art Friday, and see you in the next one. Let me close the stream. Please close the stream. Please close. Sorry, sometimes it takes a bit. There we go. There's the good night stream. Okay, good night, everybody.